everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today for this live stream event. My name is Alexia, and I am the project and event manager of the Microsoft Reactor Toronto. I will be sharing session resources with you in the chat. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly review two items with you, our code of conduct and event guidelines. First, please take a moment to review our code of conduct. Microsoft Reactor seeks to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. We do encourage engagement in the chat, but please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional and on topic. And secondly, our event guidelines. This session is being recorded and will be available on demand through our Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel in about 48 to 72 hours. I will be sharing the link in the chat for our channel. And if you've not been on a live stream through YouTube before, please note that you must create an account on YouTube in order to access and interact in the chat. You can set that up now. And if you're unable to use the chat but have questions, feel free to reach out to us through social media or on Meetup. Which brings us to today's session. I'm going to bring in our speaker here. That is, oopsie. There we go, almost there. Hey, sorry about that. Hi, Lex, how's it going?
Hi, Alexa. Hi. Yeah, I'm doing great.
How are you doing? Very good, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today for this session. This is the first episode of a two-session series. We'll chat a bit more about next week at the end of the session. But yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Microsoft React at Toronto, for giving me this great opportunity to explore how to build VS Code extension together with this audience.
Totally.
Hi, everyone. Good evening and good afternoon. Thanks for joining. So my name is Lex, and I'm running a small consulting company called Lex Studio. I've been Microsoft's most valuable professional since 2012. You can read my personal blog where I write about VS Code, C#, .NET, and a lot of Microsoft technology. And here at Lex Studio, we mainly run a consulting business around Microsoft technologies. Except that we back a few successful open source projects, and one of them is the restructure tags extension for VS Code. It has a lot of active users. And next week, we also gonna cover this extension. So recently, we started to run a private market solution for VS Code extension called Scarborough. You can learn more about Lex Studio from our homepage. There are two sessions related to this one. The first one was initially done in 2020, where I gave a session also at Microsoft React about how to write your own language server in VS Code. You can find a recording on YouTube. And another one is scheduled on May 10th, in which I will show you how to build a lot of different kind of documentation using VS Code and a Python utility called Sphinx. You can sign up at Meetup. Okay, so much. Let's move on. So in the information industry, we actually had a lot of different roles. For example, software engineers, system administrators, data scientists, and many more, some of them which I don't even fully understand. But one thing in common is that everyone needs to write something, edit files, writing code. So as a result, we of course need the best tool to assist on those source files. There's actually quite a lot of them, C or C++, Java, C#, and some of us also write scripts such as Linux or Unix shell script, VBScript, and PowerShell for Windows. And we often also need to write configuration files for values. And in recent years, markup files are quite popular, not only HTML web pages. We also write a lot of Markdown or restructure text. And for code editors, we actually had more expectation. For example, in my code editor, I would like to easily open the operating system terminal. I can type some command there so they can run tasks for me. And also for source code, especially for desktop or web application, I might need to compile the source code and also perform debugging with breakpoints. And for markup file, such as HTML, we also need to enable something like live preview, so I can see the look and feel immediately without open up another utility, such as web browsers, right? So we have seen a lot of code editors in the past decades. Many of them rise and fall. So classic utilities like Emac or VI were first introduced in 1970s. Newer ones like Notepad++ and Sublime Text were introduced in early 2000. And most recently, I believe a lot of guys are using either Atom from GitHub or Visual Studio Code from Microsoft. VS Code was so new, and as the youngest competitor in this field, it grows much more rapidly than others. And since 2018, it has been at the top spot for 4 years in Stack Overflow Developer Survey. That means it's actually quite popular. So why VS Code is popular? No doubt, one of the key reasons behind is VS Code has the most number of extensions. At this very moment, it has more than 36,000 extensions in the marketplace. And you can see it's much more than the other code editors out there. Behind the thing, Microsoft made quite a few smart decisions to attract extension authors for VS Code. For example, you can write VS Code extension using TypeScript or JavaScript. Those are the most popular programming languages in the modern age, and almost everyone with some web program background can easily dive in. And in the meantime, the extension API are well designed to restrict what you can extend and modify so that a good balance is achieved between editor stability and extensibility. Noticeably, the introduction of new protocols, such as language server protocol, make it painless a process to develop new language extensions, debugger integration, and notebook applications, similar to Jupyter Notebook, but yeah, offer much more flexibility. Of course, another key factor makes VS Code easier to use is there is a public marketplace for authors to publish and manage their extensions, and for users to search and install them. So now we can think about for VS Code and which aspects I should extend it. Yeah, that means we can write different types of extension for VS Code. Color theme, language support, code snippets, editor extension, and extension pack. And notebook renderer is a pretty new concept. We will use a few demos to help you go through each of the type so you get familiar with them. But before we dive in further, now let me introduce you to a very powerful command, which called YoCode. It's a wizard that can help generate new extension from scratch. We will actually use it a lot in coming demos. Okay, so now let's begin the demos. And the very first one, I will show you how to build something called a color theme. You can see from the screenshot that my VS Code instance now runs with the Windows XP theme. It's a color theme made by Johan Lososa. to emulate a famous Windows XP Luna theme. Yeah, if you want to customize your VS Code instance in a similar way and build your own color theme, so how to get started? So at a command line, I can now open up a new folder on my disk called VS Code First Extensions for this demo, of course. And we launch VSCode. And this is a very user-friendly utility that asks me which kind of extension I would like to build. So no doubt I will choose a new color theme and start from scratch and give it a name. So it's gonna be my second theme. And so it's gonna be a blue theme. I really like the blue. So now the name, yeah, let's say just Blue like Studio. I'd like to get started from one of the base themes, so why not choose the dark theme? And of course, let's create a Git repository for that. So before this demo, I actually create another theme so we can easily get started from there, which have similar setup. And launch VSCode. So now we can see it's quite similar to any other Node.js application. It has a package.json file which contains all the metadata, such as the version of my extension, the description, and display name I just configured. And the key part here is the base theme is VSDoc, and we had a configuration file for the theme elements. So why not open it? And we can actually see, it has a lot of token colors. They controls inside the code editor what are the different colors for the source code. But I won't change them here. I'd like to change things like the editor background or the other stuff. But how can I see this look and feel in action? The magic is here. We navigate to the debugger and now launch another instance of VSCode. And you can see now I have everything inside and I can start typing something new. So this is the new instance where I can see the color theme in action and I can actually twin it lively. So that means if I change the color here from blue to something purple, yeah, then I can see this color changed immediately, which reflect the choice I made. And of course, we can edit other elements in order to get a much more beautiful color theme out of that. But I will not continue here since we have other cool demos to go. So now you see how we can build a color theme, getting started from VSCode and then added those values. But there's one challenge here. There are actually much more visual elements we can customize inside this configuration file. But with the debugger and the configuration file, it's a little bit difficult to know which are the colors I can fully customize. So the second demo I'm going to give is to show you an easy-to-use website for that. So now I open a website called Theme Studio for VS Code, and you can see it actually provides you a lot of top-rated themes already. But in case I want to get started with my own, I can similarly choose the dark mode and give it a name like Studio Blue. And you can easily notice the difference. of using this great website for color theme creation, because it shows you a lot of elements and their colors in an organized way. So in case I want to change the status bar, the color from blue to pink, I probably choose this way. And you can see it also shows it in action quickly. And if I navigate through all the elements, I can easily change them on the fly. So of course, I suggest you use this website to create new color theme for your VS Code installation. Once you make all the changes you want, you just save the theme and you can download the file and then create an extension and share with others easily. Okay, so that's about color theme. Let's go back. Next, we will discuss a little bit about language support. So what is language support? As a default code editor, Visual Studio Code only ships with some of the program language, such as XML, JSON, C#, Java, so on and so forth. It can never be enough because there's so many programming languages out there, right? So when you need a new syntax highlighting for a certain language, you might have to write your own extension to add that. Okay, similarly, we will get started from your code. And this time, we try to create a new extension for language support. So that we will choose new language support. And notice that it will ask me to provide a text-made language grammar. So what is that? Language grammar. I'll give you an example here. So this is the language grammar for a markup language called MediaWiki. You might find this name, oh, I never heard about it in the past. But actually, this is the markup language behind famous websites such as Wikipedia. So you might actually read a rendering result of this language very often. But VS Code doesn't natively support this language. So we use this file and paste it into your code. And then your code will try to help us create a new MediaWiki language extension. So I will choose that everything inside require MediaWiki and MediaWiki. Okay, so a new extension is created. So let's also check the version I created earlier. And let's open VS Code. We can now see different from the color theme. The new extension is under another category called program language. And for metadata, it has a lot of differences. First, it defines which are the file extension we care about. And also, what is the grammar file? Okay, now let's see it in action. I will open another instance of VS Code. And now I had a sample file here. So this is a piece of MediaWiki code. I will change the language to MediaWiki. And you can see different levels are now highlighted properly, and the hyperlink, and also the section and headers. So you can see that just within a few minutes, we create a very basic but ready to use language extension for VS Code. And for Media Wiki, we can now start to edit different wiki files inside VS Code. So that's how easy it is to create a new language extension. Back to the slides, one thing you should notice is that the demo we just show you the very basic case. If you really need to support a very complex program language, you actually need to build upon a language service. And the next type of extension we are going to talk about is code snippets. That means when I type some keywords in a source file, we can quickly expand these keywords to a lot of paragraphs or a certain piece of code. So I will also give you a quick demo using VSCode. Close all the instance, and we will go back to VSCode. And this time we will try to create a new code snippet extension. And we don't have anything to import, so we will start from scratch. And what's the name? So we will try to expand a few aliases. So we will accept all the defaults. And for language, we will choose Markdown because that's often the markup language we use. And of course, we will use that. Yeah, so I won't continue here since I already create one of the extension in this way. So why not easily jump there and open it. So now we can easily navigate through this file in order to understand what is a code snippet extension. So notice the category is snippets, and this is the target language. I mean, within Markdown file, we will trigger this snippets. And of course, this is the snippet file itself. Okay. So here you can see I defined 3 keywords, Alex Studio, Microsoft, and Azure. I'd like to try to ask VS Code to expand them for me automatically. So let's see how it works in action. So this is still a plain text. So let's switch to Markdown mode. And now I'm trying to type from Alex Studio, and I can trigger autocomplete, and it show me the snippet. And once I hit enter, it will be replaced by the full name. So you can see how easy it is to define your keywords and the replacement. And of course, you can define much more keywords here for your snippet extension. Also, you should notice this simple snippet file only provide a basic functionality. If you want much more complex code snippet support, you can also build that with language server. We have mentioned language server a few times already. So you might wonder how I can write my own language server. So you can refer to my previous session. It provides actually much more powerful functionality compared to the simple extension I just demoed. For example, it provides you auto-completion not only for code snippets, but also for different building blocks of your program language. It provides much more powerful syntax highlight called semantic highlight. It provides linting support. That means if there's anything wrong in your source file, you can actually see a red line under. And it also supports code actions, so you can easily do code refactoring with the help of language server. Next, we will try to build a much more complex extension for VS Code. That's because we will use some of the VS Code extension API plus Node.js functionality. So this time we will open your code and generate a new extension, but it will be a TypeScript extension for VS Code. Okay. And the name gonna be like Studio is a link. So you can see a lot of the configuration files looks so similar to a Node.js application, and actually they're more similarity than you expected. Okay, the file is created, so let's navigate to this and open it in VS Code. We are now seeing an earlier copy of the extension I created, and you can see we use the common Node.js development environments such as Yarn, such as Webpack. And here we define a command called Studio insert inline link. And you might wonder what it does. So let's see it in action first. Launch the debugger to open a new VS Code instance. Debug anyway. So I'm now in the Markdown file again, and I'm trying to say, please navigate to our homepage. But here I would like to insert a hyperlink for our Studio homepage. How to do that? I need to remember the syntax and then type something here. If you actually write a lot of Markdown files, you might find it a little bit challenging to maintain a lot of the things like this. But we actually provide you a much easier way now with this extension, because by launching the command palette, you can choose EasyLink Creator. And initially, it asks you to provide a hyperlink, which is natural. And then automatically, it will query the website and grab its title, and then ask you whether you would like to use that. And when I hit enter, you can see this extension easily create the Markdown syntax for me, the total hyperlink. So that saves me a few seconds for a simple link, but consider that you might write a lot in your Markdown documentation, then the total time saved can be significant. Okay, time to go back to the source code. And we can see all the magic actually happens in this function. The very first thing we do in this function is to pop up a standard input box. This is from the VS Code API. And we ask the user to input an URL. And once we get that, the second thing we do is actually perform a typical Node.js functionality called fetch. We will consume this URL, send out HTTP request to the web server, grab its response, and extract the title. And then we pop up the second input box, whether you would like to use this title as the label of the hyperlink. So you can see it's pretty easy an extension to write, which utilize both VS Code API as well as Node.js API. Once you are familiar with both of the world, you can actually write much more powerful VS Code extensions. Yeah, that's the end of this demo, and we will move on. Okay, Now we have created several extensions already. And if I had a friend somewhere who would like to try out all those extensions, do I need to share with him or her so many extensions one by one? No. Actually, VS Code provides you something called extension pack. You can bundle them all together. So next, we will create a bundle, extension pack. Again, we will open your code. And this time, we will choose extension pack from a template. And it will ask whether you would like to actually use all the install extensions in your VS Code instance. No, I don't need that. I would like to from scratch. So let's do that. And yeah. Okay, so once we have that, I will use the previous tag I created. Sorry. And again, we navigate and see how easy it is to create a pack. So change the category to extension packs, and then use the extension pack section to define which are the extensions you would like to include. And you can see we create 4 extensions in this session. Then let's put all of them there. And yeah, once we package this extension pack and share with the friends, they can install a single pack and get all the extension inside. So that's actually quite easy to achieve. Okay, so now we went over quite a few different extension types, and you get some basic ideas on how to create them. And once you have your own extensions, the next task is to publish to the marketplace. Microsoft provides a very easy to use command line utility called VSCE. And this utility has 2 modes. The first mode is VSCE publish. By running this command in your extension folder, it will compile and package everything up and then upload and publish directly to the public marketplace. I don't really suggest this mode because, well, maybe we need more testing, right, on different kind of operating systems and different machines. So what I suggest is the second mode, which is called VSCE package. Different from the previous mode, after running this command, it will generate a local file, VSIX, and you can then copy this file to different machines and install from there. In that way, you can test your extensions on Windows, Mac, Linux, and yeah, you can be more certain whether something breaks miserably. However, if you happen to work for a big enterprise with very strict information security policies and develop VS Code extension for either internal program language or internal purposes, you might find it very hard to share these extensions with your colleague because either VS Code Marketplace or VSCE was actually made by Microsoft for the general public. Everything published from there are visible to anyone. In this case, you might want to build a private marketplace for your company. So here at Lex Studio, we had a solution called Scarborough that targets such enterprise scenarios. You can visit its homepage to learn more or write email to support@Lex Studio. Okay, now it's time for question and answers. So let me navigate to the comment section. Okay, So the first question I get is from Robert. And the question is, how do you actually use that color theme that was just created? Yeah, that's a great question. So let me navigate back to the demo desktop and we will open that color scheme. Okay. So I have too many things here. So this is the color scheme I just created. Okay, so with a little modification I just made, now it's of the purple color, and I can actually call VSCE package to generate a, yeah. Oh, sorry, I actually passed about readme, so I need to modify it, otherwise it will say it's not valid. So it's blue theme from Lag Studio. Okay, let's try again. VSC package. And now you can see it actually analyzed the source code and suggests whether you would like to add some more metadata, but I will not. Yeah, I will not. So you can now see in this folder a VSIX file has been created. We don't need to open it from here. Instead, we will open the extension panels. And there you had a menu item called install from VSIX. That's how we package everything up and then install it locally. And once I choose this, yeah, it will take a while. Blue theme. The name is, it's already installed. There seems to be something wrong with the installation. It's here. I choose a wrong description for the title, so that's why it's hard to find. So I can set the color theme from here. And you can now see it looks exactly like the look and feel I demoed. And hope that answers your question, Robert. Let me check the other questions. Yeah, there's no other questions at this moment. So if you have, then you can let me know. You can also write to me via support@lagstudio.com.
Awesome. Well, we can leave another 1 or 2 minutes for question. I'm just gonna jump in here, give you a little bit more info about, well, that's for Q&A. Next week's session, we are back, same time, same place. Oh, there's a question.
The question is, where can I find Yoko? Yeah, that's also a great question. So Microsoft actually had a great page regarding Yoko. So you can see this is the official guide from Microsoft regarding how to write VS Code extension. And Yoko can be installed from the Node.js npm command. Yeah, that's how we can install it on your machine. Hope this answers your question.
Awesome. Yeah, as I was saying, next week, same time, same place for the second part of this session or this series, Extended VSCode. Yeah, I shared earlier the link to our survey. If you have feedback, it's always greatly appreciated. The event code is on the screen, also in the comments. And we're also on Meetup. Obviously, I shared the Meetup Toronto link. We're on YouTube, on Twitter. If you want to follow us, get more information on our future events, this is the place to be. And it looks like we have one more question for tonight. I'm going to shoot it on the screen.
Okay, yeah, Robot just raised another question. How programmable is VS Code? For instance, can I write an HTML5 game that would run within it? Actually, you can, because one of the key API from VS Code is to embed it your own web page inside VS Code as something called a web view. So it is possible that you can host a web game inside VS Code. But of course, since web view uses on rendering mechanism, so you might come across a few limitations. But in general, you should be able to run a lot of things using the WebView API. Yeah, hope that answered the question.
Thank you for that. And yeah, thank you again so much for being here tonight. We're really looking forward to next week, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining the session, and let's keep in touch.
Sounds great. Okay, thank you, Lex. Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.